This is Kyle Hamrick, and you're listening to the Ukromedia Podcast.
Hello, Ukromedia family. Vladimir Pragnevsky here, and welcome to episode number 70 of the Ukromedia Podcast, where I serve our Ukromedia family with daily interviews from highly creative people. And today's guest is Kyle Hamrick. He's a motion designer, video editor, and software trainer based in Kansas City. But before I play my interview with Kyle, I want to take a second to thank our sponsor, ActionVFX.com. They have over 2,500 elements of professionally shot VFX stock footage captured on the latest RED cameras. From explosions, fire, water, smoke, gun effects, debris, particles, weather, blood, and gore, they have your assets covered. Save on render time with real elements. No more simulation. Go to ActionVFX.com. Again, go to ActionVFX.com. And now, here's my conversation with Kyle Hamrick. Enjoy. Kyle, welcome to the show, and share something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
How's it going? Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be on Big 70 here. That feels like a nice
There you
go. Gosh, I always struggle with the something people don't know because it depends on who it is. But maybe an interesting thing is that, let's see, our son was born quite a bit premature. He's totally fine now. And But that I think something like that gives you a really good perspective on life, because you kind of realize like what's important, and also that even when you're in a really crappy situation, sometimes you can look over next to you and see someone that's in a way worse situation, and it helps put things in perspective. And you kind of realize that when other people are griping about their problems that you think are really like kind of stupid and ridiculous, you're like,
right.
Okay, they just don't get it. And that's kind of a good thing to apply to life in general, maybe. I don't know.
That's my sister dealt with something very similar. How many kids do you have?
Just the one.
Oh, and how old is your child?
He's almost 8.
Oh, wow. Kyle, let's shift to your journey. Let's start from at the very beginning. How did you get started in your field?
So I have been doing I've been doing this stuff professionally for about 15 years now, and I had been making dumb videos with my friends in high school and stuff like that. Fortunately, I'm old enough that YouTube didn't exist yet. So all those awful videos are tucked away safely on old VHS tapes instead of... So, I was also, I did a lot of theater stuff in high school, mostly technical stuff. So I think a lot of that kind of led me into this industry in general. I have a lot of like lighting and stage managing and general AV knowledge. So that kind of led me into getting a film degree. And then I sort of fell into editing, and then I fell into doing After Effects stuff, which led more into motion design. And here we are.
And you're also teaching, right?
Correct. Yes. I've been running a user group for like 7 or 8 years now. And that kind of led me, somebody tapped me to do some local training, like in person, to groups of like 5 to 10 people, usually professionals that wanted to learn another skill. And I had been doing a lot of demos, as part of the user group. And eventually I went to a couple conferences, and somebody was like, "Hey, you should be one of the presenters." And I was like, no. But I chewed on that for a little bit, and, eventually got over myself and sent a very expectation-free email about trying to present at one. And it turns out that I did. And now I've presented at 5 or 6 big conferences. And I've released one whole online tutorial.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it something you're thinking about doing more in the future? Do you want to transition from client work to teaching?
I probably wouldn't want to teach all the time, but I definitely am trying to lean into more doing some tutorials and courses online that can, just help get my name out there, but also hopefully generate some passive income as well. And, we'll see where that goes. Hard to make time for that stuff, for sure.
No, for sure. And you learn so much from teaching, especially,
Absolutely.
Just watching Sergey, it seems like he's becoming better and better because he teaches others. You notice things that you otherwise wouldn't notice. So teaching is definitely, if anything, it makes you a better artist. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that, because like a lot of the times when I'm, going to be talking about a topic, I know it pretty well, but then I'm maybe kind of driven by not wanting to look like an idiot in public, which, is, I think, a good thing to aim for.
Good motivation, yeah.
Right. So, I dive way into that thing and make sure that I know every little thing about it so that I can either cover that or at least be prepared for a question that comes up. So, sometimes I'll pitch a topic that I know pretty well, but then I end up learning a ton about it in, trying to prepare for that situation. So.
Do you get nervous before presentations?
Absolutely.
Do you have any tips, advice for people that are about to present?
Yeah. So in general, like presenting is always scary. And after having talked to a lot of the names that do a lot of these presentations at big conferences, I know that they're usually just as terrified. So it's always scary, but you just kind of learn to put it aside. And obviously doing it with, a smaller, more comfortable group and kind of getting familiar and comfortable with that scenario is a good way to do it. You don't necessarily want to be having your first time public speaking be on the Adobe stage at NAB or something, but it's ultimately it's not that different. There are definitely topics that I'm more comfortable on. And then earlier this year, I was presenting at the Keyframes conference down in Orlando, and it was something where I didn't have After Effects as a security blanket as part of my presentation. It was kind of more me talking about squishier topics. And when I was reaching down for a drink, I noticed my hands were trembling. So I was oh yeah, this is still pretty scary. But you just do it.
No, that's true. You have to do it. You have to kind of face your fears and just step out. But what I tell myself, if I'm really nervous, I just tell myself, I'm not nervous. I'm just very excited. And it kind of shifts my emotions, and I just don't worry about it anymore. No, but you gotta get butterflies.
Yeah, very much. And it might just be the adrenaline of being in the moment too. I don't know to what degree, where does that line between nerves and excitement end? I feel like there's a lot of overlap.
I think, and it's so healthy for you. Once it goes away, if you're not nervous anymore, you should be really checking yourself. You should be worried in a way, because I think it's healthy to have a little bit of nerves. I get nervous before every podcast because I just don't know where it's all going to go, how it's going to be. And so there's this element of unknown that you can't control, but I think it's good for you. It builds character and you learn some cool things along the way, right?
I agree.
Now let's shift to something totally different. Let's transition to a dark moment in your creative journey. So I want you to tell us the story of your worst moment in your creative journey. So take it away, Kyle.
Yeah. I was trying to, land on a good thing. I do have a pretty crappy experience where I had worked at a place that was just, I don't know. It was one of those places that really takes advantage of people quite a bit, both employees and contractors. Some of this we didn't realize until later, but they hadn't been paying a lot of the contractors, and there were people that were owed $10,000 and stuff, and just. But eventually, it got to the point where one of the owners skipped town with everybody's paychecks. And we then found out he hadn't paid anyone's insurance for the last month or two also.
Oh my gosh.
So that was pretty awesome. It was I think it was in December, and I actually got the flu super bad a week later, which was really fun. And then the remaining owner reformed kind of a different company to try to, handle ongoing projects and try to keep something together. And then it kind of turned out he was just as much the problem too. So it was sort of a period of 6-8 months of just really,
what a mess.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what can you do to prevent from something like this? I guess there's not much you really, I get just a gut feeling and due diligence, right? Researching people.
Yeah. And really it's one of those silver lining things, because that led me to being self-employed. I started a small company with a couple of friends from that place, and we had a company for 8 years. So
nice. So good things come out of that. That's always nice. Speaking of good things, now let's shift to something positive. Let's talk about your best moment in your creative journey.
Yeah. So I have a couple, I feel like. I won a regional Emmy last year, which was pretty cool.
Nice. I saw that. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I do always feel the need to qualify that it's a regional Emmy. It's not like I was up against Game of Thrones or anything, but I do have the real statue. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think more than that, I have one event that I have been working with every year for the last, I think, 6 years now. It's a charity event that's based here in Kansas City. There's a handful of celebrities like Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, Rob Riggle, Eric Stonestreet, and David Koechner. I guess I should name all five of them. They're all originally from here, and they and their families put together this charity event. It's called Big Slick, that raises a bunch of money for the Children's Hospital. And that's kind of why I decided to mention the other thing earlier, because this hospital is probably the reason my son's alive. And so while it's raising money for a different part of it, it's something that I really like being involved in. And every year we raise a bit more money. We got to, I think, 2.1 million last year just
Wow.
for just the weekend, which is pretty cool. I help make a bunch of stuff for a part of the event, a bunch of video content, and help kind of direct the actual show from backstage and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Man, that's pretty sweet. It's interesting how it's something that originated from a lot of pain. You got
Yeah.
involved in this, and now you're helping others, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Which is the thing that I believe in a lot. Any creative professional, we kind of have this, let's not pretend that we're curing cancer or anything, although that's actually what this event is about. But if you can use your skills to help do something like that, I think that's a really important thing to do. You can spend all day making explainer videos to sell widgets or apps for widgets or whatever it is. But if you can also take some time to do something for an organization that you care about or a cause that you care about, it feels like a really good way to be using your skills to actually, improve the world a little bit. And I think that's important.
No, for sure. And I'm a part of Samaritan's Purse. Same thing. When I lived in Sergey and I both lived we lived in Ukraine, we received shoe boxes from him. So it's an organization that helped us when we had nothing. I mean, we had to share shoes just to go outside to play. We had to take turns, And so I remember when we got that gift and how awesome it was. And so now in the United States, I'm a national spokesperson for him, and Sergey's products are being used in our videos, and so it's kind of cool to give back, like a full circle kind of thing,
Absolutely.
Now, Kyle, let's take a quick 30-second break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by our friends from ActionVFX.com. They provide the best stock footage elements for professional visual effects, from explosions, fire and smoke, muzzle flashes and bullet shells, and gun effects to debris and particles. They have your assets covered. Available in 4K, 100% royalty free. They also have over 250 free VFX elements for you to download. Stuff like free fire sound effects, spell hits, bullet shells, blood mist, bullet hole textures, dust waves, water sound effects, explosion sound, and the list goes on and on. If that's not enough, then check out their tutorials and blogs. ActionVFX.com is a great online resource. Save on render time with real elements, no more simulations. Go to ActionVFX.com. Again, go to ActionVFX.com. And now back to the interview. All right, we're back from the break. Quick Q&A round is next. And first question, Kyle, what should artists, especially students, be doing constantly, whether it's on a daily basis or just as much as possible?
Something that I think is really important is meeting other people that do this stuff or related stuff. It's really easy to kind of end up in your little cave and kind of isolated, especially if you either are self-employed like me, or if you maybe are kind of the sole creative person on a, in a otherwise non-creative team or something like that. It can be easy to get kind of isolated, and especially now with the online community, it's really easy to connect to other video creators and motion designers and just creatives in general, and branching out and getting part of that network, getting perspective, getting people to answer your questions. It's super powerful. And I really recommend doing that.
I had somebody else last week say the exact same thing. So that's awesome that you said that. And that's confirmation. Now, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
That's a good question. And I've kind of thought about this before. I have a lot of semi-useless crafty things that I like to do when I have free time, which never seems to happen anymore. But
right. Especially having a kid now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I've kind of made a little bit of furniture and stuff like that. I don't know if I'd want to do it as a profession, but I don't know. Can I just make stuff and have people give me money?
There you go.
Maybe just things that don't always force me to be in front of the computer.
What kind of furniture did you do? What did you make?
I made our dining table out of an old door.
Whoa, that's pretty sweet. Now I kind of want to see it.
I'll send you a picture.
That's pretty sweet. I actually made what's those country top? Oh gosh, what's the farmhouse tables or something? I made one for us, and I made like 6 or 7 benches as well. So I love
Cool.
this kind of stuff. Thanks to YouTube, of course.
Yeah.
Now, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring designers and animators, what would it be?
Hmm. I feel like the get out and meet people thing covers that. I'm trying to think if I have a different one. Just keep working on stuff. You're going to suck at first. There's that Ira Glass thing, The Gap, which has a valuable message. Like when you're starting out in anything, you're going to see the stuff that's way better than you, and it's going to take a while before you can get to that point, and you're going to see that your stuff isn't there. But that's good, and you got to stick with it, and eventually you'll get over the hump. But of course, the truth is that then you'll just see the people that are still better than you, even when you're really good, and kind of
You never arrive. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Now, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
That would imply that I think that they help me be successful. Um, I don't know. Honestly, I try a couple things that work for me. I've been big on paper lists, and every day I rewrite my paper list and check stuff off, and that mostly helps me stay on track. Although sometimes it just makes me feel like, man, I've rewritten this thing 20 times. Although
You
at
probably
least
have good
then,
handwriting now.
yeah, and at least you can assess like, is this thing really that important? Am I ever actually going to do it? I don't
You
know.
know, this is
Yeah,
very helpful if you think about it, because everything's online. You kind of glance on your to dos and tasks, but when you rewrite things, you start really questioning, like, really, is this something I need to be doing? Like, this needs to be dropping off the list, like ASAP.
yeah,
So that's something I'm definitely going to try to work in my life, because I'm using Asana, and like as soon as I think of something, I just put it in there to do, and then I forget about it. And
yeah,
so I think writing things, because you can't write like a million things every single day, right? So you have to like stick
yeah.
to like 5 to I don't know, maybe 10 at most, whatever, right?
Sure, we'll say it's that short.
Oh, really? So your list is pretty long. Wow.
It's longer than I want it to be.
Well, that's a good problem to have. We'll keep you busy, right? Now, where do you get your inspiration from?
That's a good question. I do have a couple of I have a couple of Slacks that I'm on that help kind of compile cool stuff, which is nice. I'm associated with School of Motion. I'm one of the TAs and a content contributor, and there's a channel on there where everyone who's on there posts things that can eventually go into their newsletters that they send out. And so I don't look super hard for inspirational stuff, because there's that and another place or two where it's kind of just a funnel for all the coolest
There's
stuff
plenty. Yeah.
anyway. So
No,
that's
that's cool.
handy.
Now, recommend an internet resource that you find helpful in your work and personal life. Well, I guess this is one of them, right? The Slack
Yeah.
channels. And is there anything other than that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Slack in general is great. The main motion design Slack is really good. It can be a bit of a fire hose sometimes, but if you kind of use it for what it's good for, and know that it's okay to not read everything, it's an amazing resource with a ton of smart people. You do have to be a working motion designer with a reel to
Oh, I
be able
see.
to get in there. But you know, Twitter is uh, Twitter is Twitter, but like motion design Twitter is helpful. Unfortunately, the MoChat hashtag has officially stopped happening every week, but that was a great ongoing conversation. Facebook groups and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I know this kind of goes back to my earlier point, but find ways to connect to other people that do what you do or related things. Don't just be friends with motion designers. And it helps you get perspective, places to answer your technical questions, to get inspiration from. You'll find people that you become friends with and probably get hired by, hire for things. There's a lot of those communities like that. Find one that works for you and do it, whether that's Reddit or Discord or Facebook or Twitter or the Slack or whatever, or all of them.
That's true. Stay plugged in, and you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. And so if you find, it's like this daily podcast, for example, I get to talk to 5 people every single week in this creative field. So it's kind of cool in a way. For podcasting, it's kind of like my way to connect with creatives. So I get to hang out with people like you, Kyle. Now, last question. I'm curious, do you have anything coming up in the near future? Are you speaking at any conferences? Anything big happening for you?
Yeah, well, I am just about to start in on that Big Slick event that I mentioned earlier. It's the 10th one this year, and they're at a big new venue and stuff, so that's exciting. I do not have any other conferences that I can publicly announce yet, but I might be at another one later this year.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how can people get in touch with you, Kyle?
Well, you can find me at my website, which is kylehamrick.com. That's Hamrick. Everyone always likes to add extra letters to it. It's just Hamrick, not Hammerrick or whatever. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Kylosaurus Rex. One of those has a underscore, the other one doesn't, but I think you'll figure it out.
Sounds good. Well, listen, Kyle, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kyle Hamrick. Kyle, thank you so much for your time. Make sure to check out kylehamrick.com. Again, it's kylehamrick.com. And as always, all the links and resources mentioned in this episode are also available on our website at ukramedia.com/70. And make sure to check out actionvfx.com. Remember, they have your assets covered. Over 2,500 elements of professionally shot VFX stock footage captured on the latest RED cameras. From explosions, fire, water, smoke, gun effects, debris, particles, weather, blood, and gore, go to actionvfx.com. Again, go to actionvfx.com. And lastly, don't forget to join our online mentoring group on Facebook. Simply go to ukramedia.com/community. We have well over 3,000 people in this group. It is a great online resource for those of you who are trying to grow, and it's absolutely free. Thank you so much for joining me on the journey of this podcast. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you in the next episode of the Ukramedia podcast. Bye-bye.